Welcome to Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. Through each episode, we'll demystify preconceived notions about franchising, both entrepreneurs franchising and those buying a franchise. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Now here's the host of Is Franchising Right for You? Rick Morgin.
Good afternoon. Hello, Doug.
Hi, Rick. How you doing?
I'm doing well today. Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a guest on my podcast. I started this as I'm just doing something different, trying to increase the visibility of franchising, and really by doing it by having friends, colleagues, franchisors who are friends too, tell their stories. And, I think we've known each other several years. I mean, I've been with the franchise consulting company for a little over 7. So if you were one of the first,
know each other for at least 7.
I don't remember how we first met. It could have been on at a cruise conference, the very first one, but it's great to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
In my viewpoint, Rhino 7, your company, I would say it is not your mother's franchise sales organization. It is different. My perception is that very few own all or most of the brands outright, and very few have as many ownership models as Rhino 7 does with their various brands. So to kick it off, if you would tell us the history of Rhino 7, the brands that you have under your portfolio that you own, and then we can get into the various ownership models, because those are very exciting. Those are very exciting to convey to people who are interested.
Well, you're correct, Rick. We're not really a franchise sales organization. We're really a franchise development firm. So we do help brands grow by helping them add franchisees, but we also are very involved in operational systems, support solutions for franchisors with their franchisees. As you had mentioned before, we're partners in multiple brands as franchisors. We also operate multiple franchisees. So we are really intertwined in all the working of franchising. But that's what happens when you've been around for over 20 years. Right. We've been doing this really since 1999. When we first began, Rick, we were doing franchise sales and we were helping with franchise operations, more of a consulting role. In other words, franchisors were asking us, how can they support franchisees better? And we'd get very involved in that and making that better for them. Faster, stronger, more systems, more policies, procedures, software solutions. As time went on, as time does, right, we got more involved internally with it. So today, we not only have our own franchises that we're supporting, but we also have a large construction management department. So for the brands that we help that are retail or medical, we go out, help them find the sites, and then we help open the unit. We project construction manage it. That helps a lot of different things simultaneously. So obviously it helps the franchisee a lot, because most of the time franchisees have never done that before. And this way we've done it over and over and over again. So we can kind of help lead that and make sure things go off. Nothing slips through the cracks, things along that lines. And it also helps the franchisor, because the franchisor can focus more on helping the franchisee with getting open, not the physical location, but staffing, marketing, all the other things that they need to focus on when they first get started. So to kind of wrap that up, we're, like I'd mentioned before, we're really a franchise development firm, but we live in all the aspects of franchising.
That's a huge benefit to franchisors and franchisees to be able to manage the construction aspect, which probably includes finding that location, the permits, and then the general contracting and the build out. That probably that's a huge selling point in my opinion. It relieves pressure on both sides, right? The franchisor and the franchisee, by having somebody really do it end to end, you know?
Yeah, it's something that we really wanted to do in a big way, because what you're typically looking at is every new franchisee has probably never done that. So what happens to the franchisor is every time they're starting from scratch, right? And training somebody on what to do. Where in this case, we know exactly what to do. We've prototyped it out. We have architects. We have everything that the franchisee will need to make that go smoothly, and get them open as timely as we possibly can.
You've got some outstanding, super strong brands in home and property services, in the pet industry and medical. Am I missing any industry that?
No, we got a lot of service, pets, medical. We are working on more medical now. Our QC Kinetics brand, our regenerative medicine. QC Kinetics is a fantastic franchise that we were really excited to get involved with, primarily because it was helping people reduce their pain or get rid of their pain, right, via regenerative medicine, which is no drugs, right? It's all stuff coming from your own body, you know, platelet-rich plasma, alpha-2 macroglobulin stem cells. And I think I gravitated really heavily towards that, Rick, because my shoulder and knee I had been having problems with since college, right? So I really dove into that brand. And then I was one of the very first people when we opened up the Raleigh market franchise to go in and get the treatments. And they worked really well for me. So that side was nice.
That's a unique ownership model too, because
well, they have two different types of ownership models in QC Kinetics. They do owner operator, which there's really not many of, but primarily it's semi-absentee. And the main reason is that the clinics are open 1 day a week, not 5 to 7 days a week. So it makes it easier for somebody to oversee it, time commitment, especially if they've got a full-time job and they want to open something. They can do that and potentially do that on Saturday. We have many clinics that are open on Saturdays, but most of our brands don't have limited model like that, right? That are days. Most of our stuff is 5 day a week type stuff. All of our pet businesses are at least 5 and 7 days a week. Fetch, our dog walking and pet sitting franchise with Phoenix franchise brands, is a dog walking pet sitting franchise, and we do function 7 days a week with that brand for sure, right? Dogs always need walking.
They always need walking every day, multiple times a day. One thing with QC Kinetics, I mean, you do look for that operator who can open multiple units because they're buying an entire territory. But by operating 1 day a week, they can oversee clinic A, B, C, D, E, and possibly F. That 6th day. And then I think your latest brand that you brought into your portfolio is 76 Fence, and I think that is an outstanding brand. Let's talk about that for a while.
76 Fence is a little more unique in the fencing franchise world, primarily because it's got a few different models that the franchisee can choose from. They can own and operate a territory or territories and produce fencing in that market. And they can be full-time owner / operator / CEO, or they can do the same thing, semi-absentee, where they manage a manager, where we'll help them find a manager / salesperson to run the business. And then we train that person to do that. and then train the franchisee to manage that person. And then we also, which is probably the most unique thing about 76, Rick, is we have a regional developer, which is someone that is going to own a region, like let's say the state of North Carolina. They would also operate a couple of territories as a unit level franchisee, but then they help franchisees all across the state with our help. And then they share in the royalty and the franchise fees with the franchisor. So for someone that wants to do something bigger, have a really potentially strong reoccurring income, that RD fits that really well.
I mean, someone pencils that out. The return on investment is very strong. I mean, it could be.
Well, the goal would be to get your own unit up. Let's say I was going to become an RD franchisee. I would get my couple of territories up and running, so I have my team and everything else in place, and then grow franchisees all across the region that I know, or excuse me, that I own. And then that's going to automatically create that royalty stream.
It's also, well, having the skin in the game is also a demonstration to those franchisees that are coming on board to fill in the territory that it can be done. And I think that's a perfect way to validate.
It's also a great way to lead by example, right? So, you know, if I'm a regional developer and I'm operating units, not just helping support franchisees, then I have a platform to really do well on. So that kind of creates sometimes some timing issues that we tackle. So let's say that there are franchisees coming into a region before there's a regional developer. Then those franchisees would be supported by corporate, right? And we would continue to support them just like normal until the RD was up, trained, and fully functioning and able to take that on with our help.
Some of your other home and property service brands, Spray Foam Genie, that's an outstanding concept. It doesn't have the RD type of ownership model.
Well, there's
a passive one. There's an investor model.
Yeah, Spray Foam Genie is like it sounds. It's a spray foam insulation franchise, right? And what makes it a little more unique is that it is what's called an area developer, what we call true area developer. So when somebody buys an area, they own the whole thing, not just a little piece of it. So franchisees over time can get very large no matter where they go. So it gives them the ability to grow. But there are 3 different business models that the franchisee can choose from. And like you had mentioned, Rick, they can be owner operator, they can be semi-absentee and manager, or they can be what we call franchisee investor. And that's where corporate helps them run the business for them on a daily basis. So their time commitment is very limited. So that takes a manager in the marketplace that corporate's helping. All the employees are the franchisees, right? They own the business 100%, but corporate helps them run it. And that's obviously great for somebody that needs time. They're trying to save time.
Yes. And I'm glad you explained there is a distinct difference between area development and regional development.
Yes.
The area development does not share in franchise fee and royalty in finding the sub-franchisees. The area developer is, if they're buying a 15-unit territory, they're going to, over time, according to a specific schedule, open all 15 units.
That's correct. And so that's something that, right, franchising can kind of be confusing, right? When you first look at it, what's an RD, an AD, all these different things that are going on. And that's why it really benefits people, I think, when they're looking to investigate franchises, Rick, that they come to you, right? And they can kind of hear all these different terms and get a kind of a glossary from an expert that also can figure out what fits them, right? Because on the surface, you know, everybody sees McDonald's and Subways and stuff like that. What they don't really know is there's all these other types of franchises out there that have varieties of different, what we call franchise business models that the franchisee can step into and do. And so they also have the ability to become something that's smaller, if that's what the potential franchisee wants, or something that's very big, if that's what they want to be able to grow it into. So there's a lot of variety out there, that's for sure.
It's where I can help that candidate in identifying maybe the right ownership model to you, and when I refer them to you, is understanding, are they going to be best for an RD, a regional developer, or do they want to own, operate, and manage managers of the actual units over a large territory?
Yeah, that's something that people sure could use some experience guidance on, right? And so you being able to help with that not only helps that person that's looking to get into being a franchisee, but it also helps us, the franchisors, with getting the right match of somebody that's coming and looking at it. So Spray Foam Genie offers, those 3 different types of models, but so does Furryland, our mobile pet grooming franchise, where somebody can be the owner operator, they can do it semi-absentee, or they can do it franchisee investor. And so for someone that, well, let me just say it, loves pets, right? Somebody that loves pets might like that type of business primarily because they know the demand for it, right? So what really impressed me with Furryland was the demand for the service, and it being so strong. If you went and Googled, mobile pet grooming for my dog, you're going to be backed up weeks or months before you can get it done. So the demand's very strong in that sector.
You have another home property service brand, Door Renew, that
Yes,
I think the same type of ownership models that Spray Foam Genie has applies to Door Renew.
it does. So Door Renew can be owner operator, semi-absentee, or franchisee investor. I'm pretty attached to Door Renew. I became the franchisee for the greater Raleigh, North Carolina market. I really like that industry because there's very limited competition in it, and everybody's door is aging all the time. So it's just like it sounds. It's door renewal. We redo people's doors. Most of the time, that means their front door, right? The entrance into their home. So we take that door, whether it's wood, fiberglass, steel, we strip it down, we repaint it, we stain it, we seal it with, marine grade acrylic and UV inhibitors so that it's really better than when they bought it. And we also do what's called the side lights around the door so that everything matches. And we can do that for a fraction of what it would cost for a new door. So it's very popular.
Every time I do a territory check on Door Renew, I think, damn it, my front door needs pressing up.
Well, it's a great thing for us because doesn't matter, that door's aging, right?
It is.
And what ages is whatever's on it, and we can really fix that. We just did a home show here in Raleigh a couple of weekends ago, and the amount of people that were coming up to us saying, I didn't know this was possible, right? Was astounding. So this business isn't so much about fierce competition, it's about consumer awareness. So we market, right, to, especially in direct mail and door hangers and things along that lines, to really create that awareness to drive trial.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I guess it was amazing how many people just thought the only way to improve it was to replace it.
Yes.
You probably get inquiry into by dozens, if not hundreds of brands every year. Do you have a strict criteria? I mean, and also, do you incubate brands before you bring them on board as a franchisor?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I actually, that's a very entertaining and interesting part of what I get to do. I get to hear at least 100 different models, right, a year that people have franchised or want to franchise, that want us to develop it and help them grow. So I learned the best things. So franchising off of an independent business is really reverse engineered, Rick, off of the unit level P&Ls. So if your numbers are good and you factor in franchising into it, it paints the picture for what the business could be. So that's a big criteria for us. We want to know that the business can be profitable, right? And that the franchisee is going to have the ability to do what they want to do financially. So it doesn't really matter what the business is, right? Everybody, when they get into a franchise or independent, whatever, they want to try to make money as quickly as possible. Well, I've done this many, many times. And typically year one is your setup and get your feet underneath of you year, right? Where you're learning the business, your staff's getting good. Year two, everything starts to go the direction that you're hoping it's going to go. But it's usually year three that you'll look back and go, wow, this is fantastic where we are, and kind of forget about your first year or two while you were developing the business out. So, patience is a big virtue in franchising. Some franchises ramp up faster than others, but if you're looking to do something larger, that means you got to scale the business, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get to a certain level, you're plugging in more employees, and maybe you need more equipment and things along that line. So sometimes you're taking one step backwards to go 2 or 3 steps forward, and then you're doing that over and over again. And that's the only way to get large and to grow something into something big, like a Door Renew or a Furryland or a Spray Foam Genie can be, or 76 Fence. These QC Connects, these can be very large businesses. Our Fetch brand can be, but it's a little different. It's a multi-territory model. So somebody that wants to grow a big business can do that there too. It's just a different type of model. It's not an area developer or a regional developer. It's a territory style model. A little bit different, which good thing you're there to explain all that.
Yeah, that's true. I just did the math. You started in 1999. That means this is going to be your 25th anniversary of being.
Time flies when you're working hard and having fun. That's for sure. So you have a favorite book and a favorite quote. Did you bring those in to the philosophy or the foundation of the business at the start, or does it kind of evolve as time went on? Things change. As time goes by. I really, like things that are, let's call them very securely based as a business, right? So sometimes that means it's doors because they're always aging. Sometimes it's pets because people love dogs and there's 80, 90 million households with them out there. Whatever it may be, really make a big difference. There was I was at the International Franchise Association's conference this past week in Phoenix, and I was there with our team and things along that lines. And my son is on the team, and my son's 26. He's been with us 4 years after college. And I was thinking back to myself, my son was born just a little bit before we started this business, right? So time just goes by so quickly. That's for sure.
Yeah, just so the listeners know that your favorite book, or one of your favorite books, is "Let's Get Real and Let's Don't Play" by Franklin Covey. And I think that's apropos to what you've built and what you've developed.
Well, it's a good.
You weren't playing around.
Let's get real or let's don't play. Basically, is you're going to come into something, you're going to put your best foot forward. You're not going to play around with it. Otherwise, you're wasting the time. You're wasting your time, money, all the different things. So that is a core. And like you said, that was back in the early days for us, that we really wanted to work hard and not play around, right, when it came to the business side, for sure.
You built a great company, Doug, and
Thank
you've had a great team around you. But who inspired you? I mean, how did you get the motivation to get on this track?
I got really fortunate, Rick. I went to college to be an engineer, and graduated and stumbled into franchising. And I knew a little of franchising, basically what everybody else did. I mentioned McDonald's and Subway, right? But I learned quickly that what franchising was, how it worked, and it really intrigued me that people could get involved and shave off time and learning curve and all these other things when it came to getting into their own business. And so that was a big catalyst for me to really start Rhino 7, that we could help people develop these things and grow. So that all kind of came full circle, right, for us over time. But it's always been fun for us with the development of helping people get into franchising.
Yes, helping entrepreneurs, finding the right entrepreneurs, matching them to the right business within your portfolio, and supporting them through their journey with not just the training. I mean, it's from operations, construction, training, marketing, a full end-to-end business model that you've built, and I'm honored to have you. I'm extremely impressed with what you have done. I'm very happy to know you and consider you a friend. And if there's anything else that we haven't talked about in our 30 or so minutes, we can take a couple before we wrap up.
Well, first, thank you for all the kind words. I really appreciate it, Rick. And like you and I were talking earlier, you and I go back a ways, right? I've always enjoyed working with you. I do consider you a friend as well. So when you asked me if I would like to come on and do this with you, obviously I did. I thought that it would be good for me, and I would also enjoy it. That's for sure. To kind of wrap this whole thing up, I would say for people that are out there looking to franchise or buy a franchise, it would be very helpful for them if, Rick was helping you, right? Because there are so many different types of brands. And when you first start looking at franchising, especially when you're considering becoming a franchisee, it's very easy to think everything is the same, right? And it's not, right? It would be very helpful if Rick was learning who you are, what your goals are, and then he can help you look at the proper franchises that could fit what your needs are.
Oh, wow. Thank you for the kind words. Yes. And I appreciate that. I really did want to give our listeners a full understanding of Rhino 7 and you, Doug. And again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you as a guest.
Well, thank you, Rick. It's been my pleasure too. Have a good day.
You too.
You've been tuning into Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.